Hey everyone. Well, in my work clothes because I'm gonna get dirty today. This is a 19-year-old kitchen table, and the finish has definitely seen better days. So I'm gonna do a little bit of sanding and reapplying some polyurethane to kind of restore the finish. So apologize, the birds are all having lots of conversations, so hopefully it's not too noisy. But yeah, I figured I'd take you along with me on this little bit of a learning journey for me as well. And we'll see if we can make this table look a little better. The tools I'm going to use today are obviously the replacement polyurethane and a brush. This is one of those sanding blocks used for drywall. I cannot find my regular sandpaper sand block, so it's somewhere, don't know where, but I've got some regular 150, I've got some 220, I've got some 100. I believe the 150 and 220 are all I'm going to need, so what I'll do is I'll wrap those around here. I borrowed an orbital sander with some 150 grit, so I'm going to try this and see if it's not too aggressive, then I'll use this. If not, I'm going to go with the hand sanding block. I started this process by scrubbing the table down real well with a brush and some detergent, and then as you can see here, I put it outside and let it kind of bake in the sun for a little while to really make sure the wood was nice and dry. I sanded the surface with gentle pressure and smooth motion. Afterward, I used the sandpaper to work the edges by hand. Per the polyurethane's instructions, I cleaned off any dust with a rag soaked in mineral spirits. I opted to use some of those blue shop paper towels. They seem to work pretty well. After letting the table sit out to dry in the fresh air, I moved it into the garage to help prevent any flies or pollen from landing in the wet coating. Again, per the instructions on the polyurethane can, I gently stirred the contents. I assume this is to avoid creating bubbles. Next, using a brush, I applied the first coat in the direction of the grain of the wood. I found that slow strokes seemed to work for me. Later, I realized that cutting in the edges first works better as well. After the first coat was applied, use the light and different viewing angles to inspect for imperfections such as mist spots, bubbles, and deep brush strokes. After waiting about 24 hours, I lightly sanded the surface with 220 grit paper and wiped up the dust with a rag dampened with mineral spirits. Next came the second coat, just like before. The shine of the new finish made it hard to see the wet versus dry border. I found the application of the second coat to be a bit more difficult as I had to keep ducking down to see the border in the light. Overall, the finish looks pretty decent. There are a few little mars there from just the beating that the table has taken. I didn't sand it overly heavy, which I probably should have. You can see this little bit of ridging here in the finish, so I have a brush mark here. As I said, I am not an expert, so I need to sand that and try to touch that up. This is where it was worn down to the bare wood. There's a little bit of almost like an orange peel texture. So again, I'm going to sand this down a little bit and then put a new coat on. And we'll see how the third coat comes out. I waited another 24 hours for coat number 2 to dry, and then I did a slightly more aggressive sanding to try and eliminate any of that orange peel and those brush marks. Lather, rinse, repeat for dust removal and application of coat number 3. One thing I noticed was that no matter how careful I was, I still saw some bubbles in the finished application. They settled out during the drying process, but please leave a message in the comments with any tips you have to avoid them in the first place. My initial thought is that the polyurethane's older and may have thickened a bit, so maybe I should add a bit of thinner to it. Table's now back up where it belongs in the kitchen. I'd say it's not too bad. There's some brush marks and a couple little imperfections, but As I've said, I am not a professional painter or furniture remaker, so the fact that it's at least a lot better than it was, I'm happy with that. There's no more bare wood showing, and I think this finish should be able to take, several more years of use. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with how it came out, and I think that'll wrap up this project. Hopefully you learned a little bit, at least looking at some of the techniques I used, and you can definitely leave comments if you say, wait a minute, you did that wrong, or if you did this, it would be easier. Part of what I do here is not only just to show people how some of these projects can get done, but also to open up discussion among the comments on better ways of doing things as well. So if somebody says, hey, I've been doing this for decades, and if you do this, this, and that, it's comes out better, please share it, because that's going to help everyone learn how to improve ourselves. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. And till the next video, see you later.